Please be seated. So, as the fifth of 7 children, I wholeheartedly resonate with James and John's strong desire to be acknowledged as part of the elite inner circle. I remember longing for the time I would be invited to sit at the big people's table at holidays. In my mind, it would be a measure that I had finally arrived. In my Air Force career, despite a lot of striving and endless hours of study, I was always promoted on my 3rd try. So on my final promotion, when I was told I had made it the first time around, I told them there must be some mistake. I had 2 more times to go. The allure of attaining elite status and being first is powerful and ever present. In all my years of travel, I've dutifully trudged down the aisle of the airplane, past those first-class seats into coach, where after we're all settled, flight attendants actually close curtains to separate the elect from the rest of us. In our culture, first denotes exclusivity and insider status, and it exudes a sense of power and entitlement. Often, something most of us work hard to achieve, occasionally bestowed by birthright lineage, and once in a blue moon by sheer dumb luck. It's second nature to strive for first, as evidenced by our language. We come by this honestly. Our parents mark the milestones of our lives by our firsts, first steps, getting and losing our first tooth, saying our first word. There's prestige in winning first place in a contest, getting the first opportunity for a good deal or exclusive events, living in a first world country, being named first among equals. So even after Jesus predicts his death for the 3rd time, James and John immediately angle to secure their places, because clearly there won't be enough glory to go around. They have to jump at the chance to get theirs first. After all, along with Peter, they're the ones Jesus has already sort of set apart as that small elite inner circle. And actually, to me, it sounds a little like they're trying to edge out Peter just a bit too, as they never mention him in their quest to secure a place of honor at the big disciples' table. We come by this primordial impulse instinctively to ensure that we get ours first. It's called survival of the fittest. Whether it is money, love, time, ample possessions, whatever it takes to secure our position and power over others, we compete for it all, somehow believing there simply isn't enough for everyone, and that we need to do whatever we need to do to secure what we need first, even at the expense of someone else getting his or her own. And while there is solid truth in the admonishment to put on our own oxygen mask before helping others, there is an equally important reality that when we all have our oxygen masks on, there will be air enough for everyone. And herein lies the crux of why this thing we call stewardship is so darned complicated. Within our hearts reside humility and arrogance, respect for others, and a desire to outshine them, a desire to serve, and a craving to be served. Every day we balance these 2 seemingly opposing yearnings and decide for ourselves time and again how much to keep and how much to give away. We are so very human in that way. Clearly, Jesus doesn't share our dilemma. You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants. But it is not so among you. Whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. He tells us, for the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. The notion that real power can only be gained by giving it away is heretical in the world we live, and yet it is the way to follow Jesus. We too are called to die, perhaps not physically as martyrs before us have endured, but to die nonetheless. To drink of his cup and be baptized with him is to die to our need to control and to amass, to the world's definition of power and status. Die to the false sense that prestige comes from being first and the false hope that happiness is inherent to possessing. Real power, Jesus says, comes from serving, not being served. If you've already had the experience of pouring yourself out for another, be it an aging parent, a difficult spouse, a child with addiction, a neighbor with no one else to help, then you too have had a taste of this real power. So I guess the question we need to answer is, which source of power do we most covet? Do we spend our time scrabbling for a seat at the big table, or do we seek and serve those who have nowhere to sit? Amen.